It's about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hello everyone and welcome to another meeting of the C++ Digital Signal Processing JUCE study group. Let's talk about money. How are you all doing?
Very good.
Dude, very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, so I have with me here Fotis and also Bo and Cwits.
Hello.
Yeah, so you were just talking
everybody.
about money before we started this, so I thought it would be interesting to share these thoughts with people. So, yeah, Cwits, tell us about what started this conversation.
I don't remember precisely, but
Too late.
but I start thinking of that if my project will be successful enough that I can make it like a commercial product or something like that, and not make it like open source as I was planned. And but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not so good to make some commercial products.
Why do you say that?
Just because maybe I'm working alone and it's too ambiguous for one person.
Oh, well,
That's not important. You can actually do it.
yeah,
if you
you
want.
have to have something viable,
Yeah.
something that solves like one part of the big problem you're trying to solve. And as long as you have that, you can start selling. And when you start having money, you can hire more people if that's necessary. Or you can just give it time, you know. You can either hire more people when you will be able to output faster, or you can just take your time and then you will build about the same thing and it will be more like your vision. Which I kind of like. I prefer this style. That's how I work. On my day job, I am the only developer, and we don't output as fast as other teams would, but it is a consistent, clear view of what it needs to look like. So,
Yeah, of course, but as I understand, if I understand correctly, you don't get enough money to make this like your normal job regular.
yeah, fair enough. So, in the case of my day job, there is like not a Patreon, but there is a patron to the project. So that's how things get done, right? You need money. And that's the thing I was saying before we started the stream. Some people say that, oh, you need to not open source anything, because if you open source something, the big companies will use it, they will not pay back, and you'll be just working for free. And then there are some people who are like, no, you must open source everything. And then they start talking about notions of freedom and whatnot. I am somewhere in between. I think that if the only way to make progress is to fund the project by charging for it, more power to you. And if you are feeling like you would like to share things, more power to you. There are economical reasons to share things. There are big companies making money out of open source. So money is there to be made.
Usually, it's a lot of work to sell a product. You need to license it. There's a way more burden of responsibility and way more bureaucracy to sell something. So doing the Patreon buy me a coffee thing and open sourcing it's way simpler. You might not make as much money, or you might make money, but there's a lot of responsibility involved in selling something. So,
but on other side, I don't want to work on different people all my life. Maybe I want to start my own business and
yeah, sure. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that many people will be interested in buying your product because what you're developing is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, for example, in HISE, they ask you to make your project open source and license it under GPL3. And if you wanted to make it closed source, you will have to contact the developer, Christoph Hart, to get a license for that.
Yeah,
so there is that.
I think that's actually a good deal. We use GPL3 on our project as well, on my day job. So it makes a lot of sense because one thing you do not want is to make an open source project that is a product and then have someone else try to profit from it. There is a distinction I'm making here when it is a product, because there are things like tools and libraries, and those I think can be more can be licensed in a way that is more liberal. So licenses like MIT allow anyone to package something and try to sell it. Mm-hmm. And it is free for everyone else as well. So it may be hard for you to sell the thing, but it is allowed. And in something like GPL3, if you and what I'm trying to say with MIT is you can make changes to the code base and make the changes closed source and try to sell that if you want. With GPL, you cannot. If you make modifications to the code, you must license it with the same license. So it needs to continue being open source and GPL. Now, if you have a library or a tool, it is something that, at least to my understanding, is something that people should be building on top of. So making it GPL is complicated. Everyone who builds on top of your tool will have to consider the legal implications of using a GPL library. And that's why when I'm doing libraries and tools, I stick to MIT. Mm-hmm. But when we have something that is more like a finished product, it's maybe something that you're going to try to sell, or maybe something that you're going to try to monetize in some other way. But if it's a full product and you want to make it open source, then I think that GPL is a good license for you, because you are you're not forcing anyone, okay? You are not, for instance, one nuance of the GPL license that many people don't understand is that if you use a GPL library or whatever piece of code, and the thing you end up building is not public, you are not trying to sell it, it is maybe an internal tool for your company, maybe something that you use yourself, a hobby, whatever, you don't have to open source that. It's yours. But if you try to sell it, then the source code must go along with it. That's what the license says. So I think it's a good middle ground between being open and leveraging all the good stuff about open source, but still being practical in terms of the economics of the situation of making a software product, which is expensive to make. Software development is an expensive skill. So that's my take on it anyway.
Oh, and one more thing, when we're discussing those websites like Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee and things like that, I did some research and I found that the most interesting of all is Co-Fee, because it is the only one where you can sell things and you get to keep 100% of the money. I think that Gumroad and Buy Me a Coffee do take a small percentage, like 5% or so.
Patreon takes 30. That's quite a hefty
really?
chunk. Yeah.
Are you sure? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Pretty sure, but
For now, I'm not sure yet.
I'm
Hang
perfectly
on.
fine with being wrong on that. It is a lot. That's what I sort of read.
Yeah, I am on Patreon right now. Let's see how much I am paying. Okay. Here is the Patreon page. I am looking at it. I'm trying to see if there's something that is like compromising and I shouldn't share with everyone, but it seems to be okay. So let's do a screen share real quick. The payment processing rate is about 5%, but maybe that's just the rate that they charge when they are transferring your funds from Patreon to your bank account. Maybe that's what this is.
Yeah.
Okay. I will dig some more and share the screen again. But I think it's less than that. And there are different plans you can have.
One. Yeah.
Here it is. Here it is. So there are these different plans. Right now, it is charging me the 5% that is specified here. And I'm getting like almost no features, which is perfect for me because I'm not using any fancy features. But you could go up to 12%. But 30, that's not here. I don't think that exists.
No. Okay. So I was wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, it's less than half of that for the premium, which gets you like a person you could talk to at Patreon. Which is okay.
All right.
Makes sense.
All right. Sorry.
Don't be. It's fine.
You're punished forever, Bob.
Yeah.
You're not a Patreon supporter.
Put on the funny hat and sit in the corner and mope.
Right. So.
Who wants to start?
Yeah.
I'm not going to start yet because I haven't finished my homework. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can try to show something.
Yeah. The dog ate my homework. Just for reference.
To be true, it's not finished. I got some bugs there and I didn't found why it's working like how it's worked, but still, I don't know. Again, frontal camera. Oh, no, not frontal. What's happening? Sorry, some technical issues.
Well, don't worry about it. You were there for the stream yesterday, and that stream was technical issues galore. Everything that could go wrong went wrong on that stream.
Oh my god. I wasn't there because I was celebrating my update. I got updated to 33 years old yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Belated happy birthdays wishes.
So I turned on camera and you should see something fancy.
Yes, I do see that. Let's make it appear to everyone else. Hang on as I press the buttons.
Okay.
I
will prepare something. I hope it will work.
Yes, you show up on the page. And now let's reorder everything to make it look good.
But as always, I'm not sure if it will work. No, of course, I yesterday tested this, but still, there is always possibility that none of this will work. So.
All right, looking good.
I loaded 3 samplers with different sounds, and what I have made here, I don't know if it's worth to say what is this, or you want to guess. Let's send this here and then. What is this? Is it hi-hat, I suppose?
This looks like a sequencer to me.
How fast you guess?
You turned Ableton Push into an actual sequencer. Oh my god.
So basically, I have made step sequencer. This is first sound, yeah. Here I have 32 pads for I don't know. Can you see? 32 pads for sequencing. Here is 16 pads for bars for selecting different bars. I don't know. As you see, yeah. And here is 16 layers, 16 paths for layers. Like I can make hi-hat layer, make another layer and send it to the different different sampler, for example, snare. Oh, why it's not sounding? Ah, okay. Here it is. Okay. And make another layer and send it to the kick. I don't know. Let's put some random things here. Oh no, this is wrong. And there is some weird noises. So something like that. Overall, I've got maximum 32 steps per each bar and maximum 16 bar per I don't know, per layer.
Okay, hang on. Let's recap to see if I understand this. So what we're looking at is there is the Ableton push.
Yes.
It is connected to a Raspberry Pi.
Yes.
And the Raspberry Pi is the brains of the operation. It is controlling the lights that will go on, and it is controlling the timing. It is playing back the samples. All of the work of processing audio is done on the Raspberry Pi. And
Correctly.
the two are communicating, I forget how, just via USB, and you're controlling the Ableton push on a very low level, or are you sending MIDI messages to the Ableton push?
I'm controlling Ableton push, I suppose, on high levels. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's communicating with the Raspberry via USB interface only.
Okay.
And yeah, okay, I didn't make some fancy graphics there. Sorry.
But how much? I guess what I'm most interested in understanding is how much of the logic is in the push. I mean, do you send it messages like, do you turn lights on and off, or does the Ableton push itself knows things like layers and bars and beats and that sort of thing?
None of logic is on Ableton push. Everything is done on the Raspberry. I'm just send back to the Ableton commands which pad to turn on, which light to turn on, what to draw on display, and it's sending back to the Raspberry what I have done, what button pressed or encoder moved, touch strip and everything.
Oh, that's fascinating.
But yeah, but as you can hear, there is some glitches on sound. It feels like sometimes step sequencer is sending more than one note, more than one played note, like it's sending a bunch of them, like spamming. I don't know. I just finished this yesterday, so don't have that time to fix this. And I don't know how to track it. So yeah, something like that. Something. This is my update for last 2 weeks.
That's amazing work, actually.
And I think
It's a lot more
Yeah,
than I did.
I'm
it's
very impressed.
Yeah, you have done amazing progress over this month. Maybe you should be hired by Ableton. You could create a custom firmware for the push.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
you
a
could
good
work
question,
on
actually.
push-
There is a
push
step
3.
sequencer. When you use Ableton Push with Ableton Live, there is a step sequencer. So did you like reproduce the step sequencer that you use when you're using the Push with Live, or did you come up with something else in terms of like where the buttons are laid out and how they work?
basically layout of the button pads and everything for now is like in Ableton. That was my like inspiration. But I don't. I was thinking, is it worth? For now, I have steps per bars and bar count, one for all layers. Like on every layer, you will have same amount of steps and bars. But is it worth to make them different? For example, for kick, you will have 2 bars with 8 steps in each bar. For snare, you will have 1 bar with, I don't know, 4 steps, and hi-hat will be more complicated, like 32 steps and then 16 bars. I'm not sure. Maybe it will be too complicated. Maybe it will be funny. Maybe it's worth to make it. I didn't decide it yet. Maybe I will do this. It sounds good.
If you were to make this a product, do you imagine how it would be? Do you imagine you would like sell a kit for people to build themselves because they would need to buy parts like a Raspberry Pi and that sort of thing? Or would you like build your own thing and just sell a finished product?
It depends on the. I think it depends on the target auditory, because if I will want to sell like DIY kits, then people who will want to buy it and make by themselves will be less. Neither I will sell ready to use product. And for example, for musicians, it will be who are not familiar with soldering, programming, and other stuff. It will be very hard to build this thing together.
What does the hardware look like? Because I thought it was going to be just a Raspberry Pi plugged with a USB cable into the push, and that was that. But if there's some soldering involved, it's a bit more interesting.
No, there is some more complicated things. As I said, I want to make products. It should be in one case. I like maybe not too big enough, like to fit in my backpack with the Ableton push. There have to be a couple audio inputs, of course, couple audio outputs, maybe some extra instrument input, but maybe it will be paired with the microphone inputs. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So it would be like one product, one box that has sort of an audio interface, a mini computer, and a great MIDI controller all in one and ready to go.
Google Akai Mpc Live.
Oh yeah, I know this thing. I watch a YouTuber who uses it regularly, AvMacGree, and you can do a lot of things with the Akai Mpc. You can create whole songs with just a few buttons because it has an internal memory, right? You can store samples inside it. It's like a native instruments machine in a way. So you don't need to have a computer.
That's the mine, like a target idea where I want to become like a portable sound station.
Oh, nice.
I can take with me somewhere on a jam or somewhere else on performance side. I don't know.
Oh, that would be amazing, because have you heard of Zintian? Did we discuss in the previous meeting? I don't remember. Zintian is a Raspberry Pi. It's currently unavailable because they don't have enough money to make new parts, but we're waiting. But anyway, Zintian is like a Raspberry Pi inside the box, and all it does is it has a couple of MIDI input and outputs, a USB input, and some RCA audio inputs and outputs. So you can take this and the MIDI controller and go wherever you want and make music. So if you did a similar thing with the Raspberry Pi and the push, it would be a lifesaver for many musicians. There is a market for that, and like we said, the Akai Mpc and the Native Instruments machine. So it's called the DAW-less, DAW-less.
Yeah, something like that. And basically, it has to be some kind of box with audio inputs, outputs, with a touchscreen display, maybe some buttons, spots that I'm not sure yet. And Raspberry Pi inside with a couple USB ports and maybe some hard drive inside to store information, samples, recorded samples. Basically, what I see, what I want is that I can come somewhere, take, for example, guitar, microphone, record some samples and make music from that.
Yeah, because think about it. For example, those traveling musicians who just come up with an idea on the road and they say, oh, now I have to take out my laptop, I have to wait for it to load, I have to load my DAW, I have to load my VSTs, my samples, blah, blah, blah. But if you have this solution, you can just turn on the Raspberry Pi and the push and you're good to go.
Yeah, kind of. So something like that.
And all digital, or are you interested in also doing some analog synthesis or something like that?
Probably all digital for now. Maybe after a couple of years, 5, 7, 10, when I will be more familiar with the analog stuff. But for now, digital looks like closer to me.
Oh,
very
God,
nice.
I have a headache right now because I just exported an audio track for a client and I forgot that I had soloed one track only, so the rest went blank and I have to render everything. But after that, I have something for you. Instead of finishing my homework, I would like to finish it with us together, because I want to explore HISE and show you its functions. I built the developed version. I'm going to tell you more about it, but Cwits, do you have anything else to say on your project?
I don't know if you have. I can show a bunch of code, but there is total mess and it's hard to understand what's happening there. Maybe you have some question, Bobo, Leandro.
Yeah, I have some questions. So on a high level,
what the heck are you doing? Yeah.
On a high level, what we are doing here is we have a grid of buttons, we have a grid of lights, and we can turn the lights on and off and see if the buttons are pressed or not. And all the logic lives inside your program. So it seems to me as though there is a lot of complexity involved here. It seems as though this is like a super complicated thing to build, a whole sequencer. And yet, you did it in a couple of weeks. So on a high level, what's the secret sauce? What are the difficult problems you encountered, and what did you do to solve these problems?
You built it in your spare time as well.
Yeah.
to be true, this is not a couple of weeks and months of work. For me, it's around two years of work, maybe a little bit more, because I've got this idea around 3 years ago, and I started to program microcontrollers firstly. And by the way, that gave me vision how processors working inside. How to say that? I don't know.
Well, give yourself some credit, because all work is like built on something else. You build your knowledge, or you build your knowledge base over time. So the fact that you learned about microcontrollers a couple of years ago, that doesn't take away from how fast you worked on this.
Maybe if I will find some old photos, I can show you, but I'm not sure.
And how far could you have taken a microcontroller instead of a full-fledged computer like a Raspberry Pi? Because the microcontroller should be able to tell the grid of lights to light up, and it should be able to process the inputs. It perhaps would even be able to do things like have a notion of sequences and beats and layers. All of that could, I guess, perhaps live in a microcontroller, but where would you be pushing the boundaries, and where would it break?
Yeah, you're totally true, but when I was making it on microcontroller, I got understanding that for all my ideas, I wouldn't have enough processing power, because my first prototype was able to play some samples. It was something like this, but built on Akai LPD8.
Oh,
like a small. I have soldered wires from microcontroller.
This one?
Yeah, straightly to the pads, because I broke the controller, and yeah. And then it was sending audio to the output, to the normal output, like RCA cables, and I was able to hear some sounds, but still, microcontrollers have a lot of limitations. They have less CPU frequency, less memory, less RAM, and you just can't process totally push display pads, lights, some different graphical interface, for example, touchscreen display, and microcontroller just can't do it as Raspberry Pi can, because of faster, more memory. That's the reason why I'm having 8 gigabytes RAM Raspberry Pi.
Oh, really? That's a lot.
Yeah. This was my primary idea.
Right. And do you know what you want to do next? I mean, not like in the grand scheme of things, just for next meeting.
I made today the list what I want to do, and there is a lot of things to do. Probably something from that list.
Okay.
I don't sure what I want to do next, but there is bunch of things what I have to do. For example, with those samplers, I want to do fade in, fade outs, basic audio editing, audio files editing. I still don't have main mixer functionality. I still can't load and save projects. There is no anti-aliasing filters. I still can't edit recorded MIDI, and so on, so on.
I'm curious about the anti-aliasing filters. Why would you need them?
I don't know, because it's fancy.
But are you doing audio effects that would introduce aliasing, like distortion?
In the future, yes.
Ah, okay.
I think. Why not? I want to have the bunch of ready to use effects. So.
Sure.
Wait a second. If you wait 1 second, I will send you my first prototype of project, which one I made on the microcontroller. I found it. And I can send you a link to my Google Drive. How I can send it? Copy link.
I'm back.
Here it is.
Okay, we have that.
I don't remember if there is some banned words like.
Yeah, it's telling me that I need to request access. So I guess let's leave this for later, perhaps.
Oh, how to do it? I don't know how. I can make it like opened, not restricted, but anyone with. Oh, try another one another time. No, try. Okay. One more time. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's see what we have here.
What did I miss? What are you guys doing now?
So this is the first prototype of the project that Cwits is working on right now.
Oh,
back when
the
he was
LPP.
using a microcontroller to answer the question I asked about how far can you take a microcontroller before you actually need a full computer like a Raspberry Pi?
Bļā, tāds prikals. Kroč tāds izskatās.
Yeah, there is some Latin language. I was sending this video to my friend and
there you go.
Oh,
Okay. So you have here
thought
some playhead controls and
where is another one?
why did you label everything upside down? That doesn't look too nice. And what is this thing that we are looking at here?
In the left top corner, there is actual microcontroller, like a prototyping PCB I have bought. I don't remember which series it actually is. It's a STM32 something, pretty high end with it was 200 megahertz, I suppose. I don't remember. On the right top corner, there is like a digital to analog converter wired to the microcontrollers with a couple of wires. And on the bottom, there is broken Akai LPD controller. Wait a second. I will share another video where is a little bit more samples involved.
Yeah, but I guess to answer the question, you are able to do some playhead controls. You are able to play samples. but the visual feedback is pretty limited in this kind of hardware.
Next video is, I suppose, is better, but yeah. For example, on a microcontroller, you can do everything same what I'm doing right now, but probably it will be limited. For example, for one track, yes, like kick, snare, and hi-hat, and it will be top of the microcontroller power. You couldn't have like a bunch of tracks there to play the whole song, to record something from microphone, processing it on I don't know how to say it. On the run,
On the go.
on the go, yeah, and play some music. But of course, you can do something, and of course, it depends on microcontroller, because how much features it have, how much power it have, how much memory it have. Only that. That was the only reason why I moved to Raspberry Pi.
Fair enough. All right. Am I missing something? Is there anything else that you would like to show?
I don't know. Probably no. Probably.
Okay. Awesome update from you. And I'm looking forward to what you end up doing for the next meeting. Things like the anti-aliasing filter will be a piece of cake, I'm sure.
Yeah.
First of all, I have to understand what it's doing, and do I really need it? I suppose I need it.
Well, I guess for the thing you're doing now, where you're just playing back samples, you don't need that. It is only when you start introducing harmonics, so talk about distortion and even heavy compression, then those will create harmonics that go higher in the spectrum, which may generate frequencies above the highest frequency you can represent at a given sampling rate. And by then, you need to oversample so that you can capture these frequencies correctly. And then you need anti-aliasing filters to get rid of them before you push the audio to the next piece in the chain. So like your proverbial speakers.
No, of course I want to make bunch of effects, for example, distortion, saturation, I don't know, whatever there can be made on the Raspberry, yeah.
Oh, but I almost forgot. I think I've sent you the link, but Air Windows plugins are available for Raspberry Pi. He has created the builds specifically for that. And also, I think that modular synth I showed, the Cardinal, I think that also has a Raspberry Pi port.
Nice.
So there are already a lot of things that you can do with this. And also Zintian comes with a lot of Raspberry Pi ports of famous VSTs, famous open source VSTs like Surge or Spheze. So you can do a lot of things in there.
Sounds cool.
And maybe we can work together and I can create some samples for you so you can bundle them with your Raspberry Pi solution. So people can buy people can buy your Raspberry Pi and they can also buy a pack of samples so they can play with it.
Yeah, this will be valuable, but
yeah,
but I think not now.
We're brainstorming.
Yeah, why not? But obviously, in the late future, I want to add some VST support. Probably not probably, but for sure. Maybe there is LV2 on Linux.
Oh.
Maybe if it's possible, JSFX.
Basically, you can. There is a middle way to implement JSFX using the framework that the creator of Cardinal has made. It's called Carla. If I'm not gonna, no, it's called Ildael. But you can implement it in Cardinal as well, and also on its own. And I think it has an LV2 port. So this thing is a JSFX loader. So yes, it is possible to load JSFX in Raspberry Pi.
Oh, cool. But still, this is very long-term plans, and it's not.
You should write this down.
I should write things. A lot of things I should write down to not forget.
Yeah, I have lots of lists over here. All of these are things that I am working on right now. That's the way it goes.
I have to start writing.
It helps. It helps because then you can put everything in front of you and have a clearer picture of what's going on. I like working on paper.
Are you writing on the actual paper by your hand, or you're doing this like digitally?
No, I have like pens and paper. I know it's crazy technology, right? Markers.
No, I was going to say this thing. I think your brain works differently when typing and when writing on hand. I think it's more organic, like your brain likes it a lot more. Your ideas flow more freely. I don't know. It helps to write on actual paper.
Yeah, I find that too.
I just have tried to do something like that digitally, for example, in Excel. Yeah, but it's basically not working for me. I'm not going inside and changing stuff. I don't know what I have done, what I have to do, and etc.
Yeah, I recommend pen and paper for that. I think it really helps. And let me just say hi to Mage and Tail, who are here on the chat on YouTube. And Mage says the Akai Mpc Mini is useful. Dumb MIDI with 80 times 3 color buttons plus flashing and 9 sliders. I use it to switch things in VCV rack and pure data. Cheap as well.
Oh, nice.
And Mage also says that getting fed up learning data log query syntax. What are you using data log for? That seems interesting.
What is data log?
It is a programming language that can be used as sort of a database. So that's why it's a data log query syntax, because you can sort of query a database using data log. But it is a logic programming language. So if you want to reason about problems in terms of databases, you can express their solution in data log, and the programming language will find ways of solving that problem that you have. I guess this is too abstract. I can give an example. So you know how there are these like puzzles, like the Tower of Hanoi and how to place queens on the board of chess and that sort of thing. You can sort of express these problems, like you can sort of express the board of chess in data log, and the engine that runs your program will find the solution for you. So you can sort of declare how the problem is constrained, like in the problem of the placing of queens on a chess board, you would say, this is how the queen moves on the chessboard, and this is the constraints I would like to have in the case I don't want any queen to be in a position where they could attack another queen in one move. So you would just express this problem in the language, and the engine would find a solution for the problem to the problem for you. And supposedly it would do that in a way that is tractable, right? It doesn't just always brute force the problem and spends a lot of time doing it. Anyway, it's a fun little programming language kind of quirk, and I am a programming languages person, so that's why I'm asking about this.
It sounds like have to dig a little bit inside to get understanding of what's happening there.
Yeah, and Beats Baston is here. Hello. All right. So who wants to go next?
I do.
Take it away.
I just finished what I was doing, and hold on a second. I'm going to prepare my things before I share my screen. I'm going to run the development build of HISE, and I'm going to use the standalone rather than the plugin, because I think that it's a bit cumbersome to make a plugin inside a plugin. But when we finish it, I'm going to load in Reaper and see the results. But where is my build? It's on JUCE. And I'm going to, while I find this, for those of you who are not on our Discord, I'm going to recap what I said about my HISE discoveries. I'm going to share that screen as well. Okay, I found the standalone. Let's run it.
Remember to promote the Discord server for people who
course.
aren't there but should be.
I was going to let you do it because you're better at this than me. But yeah, if you want to join us, you can go to the unofficial Reaper users group. We're going to post a link in the description, right?
Yeah, just go to my website. It is on the description, and from there you can go to the invite and join the group. And
there is a sub-channel called Leandro Mpc, and this is our corner. This is where we're discussing the things that we say in this live stream.
Yeah.
So let's share my screen and computer sound. And boom. Can you see my stuff? It's loading. I can see black screen.
Okay. Okay, I see it on Skype. I don't see it in OBS, which means that people who are watching this don't see it. But hang on, let's try to make it appear.
I don't even
now it's showing up. That's perfect.
Okay, awesome. So these are my HISE. I'm going to explain this a bit more. The first is that in the previous live stream I was using the master branch, which hasn't been updated since 2021, and the latest branch is called develop. At the time, August 20, I was using the most latest, but they did another update 4 days ago where they fixed a buffer issue. I don't know what it is, but let's try this because we don't have time to recompile things. But anyway, as you can see, the develop branch is a bit different than the master. The GUI is, where is it? I already forgot how to use it. Yeah, in the master branch, the master chain was already in the homepage, but now the GUI is very differently organized. This looks a lot like JUCE, right?
Yeah.
And I also wanted to talk about this thing for a second. So one of the advantages of HISE is that it actually has its own audio compression codec. It's 16-bit, but it uses its own sophisticated algorithms. So even if you're using 24 bits, it retains all the relevant data. But you can disable this if you want. But you are saving some space, and also you're not missing much. After all, you're making samplers. And right now, we're not even going to make a sampler. We're going to make a synth, which means that it's going to create oscillators. And let's create a sine wave first, just so we can test it. Where is the keyboard? Oh, this is the sampler. Oh my God, I really should have done my homework here. But let's go back to the Discord. The problem
and that's a standalone thing, right? It's not even a plugin anymore.
No, it does have both.
Okay.
standalone. You can still build a plugin. And also this time, here it is. And as you can see, I actually exported the multi-channel version because it has 16 outputs. I'm going to, yeah. It's 8 stereo pairs. So it's 8 outputs, 16 monophonic outputs. The standalone solution doesn't offer a multi-channel option. Also, there is an optional dependency called the Intel Integrated Performance Primitive, which you can download from one of these 2 links. It's optional, but I recommend it if you want to increase the performance of the convolution reverb, and I am going to need it for my drum plugin. And finally, oh yeah, and also you should check out the use IPP flag. Oh, and the thing that we were discussing in the previous live stream where the zip with the SDKs was password protected in the master branch, but not in the develop branch. No idea about that, why they did it. Anyway, and also the oh yeah, let's show this, the producer that comes with it, tools. Wait, wasn't it in here?
Do you find that it's better to use the standalone or the VST version? Because when I'm doing JS effects, I really enjoy the fact that I can just have everything in the DAW right then and there. And if you load a standalone HISE instance, then you don't get that kind of experience. But I guess you would be able to get that kind of experience on the plugin version, right?
I agree, but I have a slight problem with the Reaper, with the VST3s. I only build VST3s here, and I don't know if you have the same issue, but when I load the VST3, I'm gonna load a random VST3 to demonstrate it. I cannot, the ones that don't have a resizable output, they don't show me the bars that allow me to scroll inside the window. I don't know if you can fix it with an option, or I did try a different DPI setting inside the settings, but the problem persists. What should we load? One that has a big interface. Let's see, load the Sine by Orchestral Tools, which is free. So this is the VST3 version. And look at this. I am changing the size of the window, and I don't have the bars. But if I load the VST2 version, there it is. I'm making the window smaller, and now you can see the bars. So if anyone knows how to fix this, please let me know. But yeah, this is the reason why I'm not using the plugin version of HISE in Reaper. And the final thing I wanted to show about my findings on Discord is this icon, the GPL icon. It doesn't show up in the producer that you can download from the JUCE website. This is specifically in the producer that comes with the develop branch of HISE.
No.
And I don't know, I just wanted to...
Fotis. You can absolutely get that on the version of producer you can get from the website, from JUCE's website. What happens is... I guess I can show you this real quick, because it was a bit tricky for me to understand how it works. So perhaps it will be better if I show how this works. Hang on. As I create a new project, and then I will share my screen.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to remember how to show the actual layout. Oh, no,
yeah, so here is me, and you have to have a project. If you just go to the, let me take a step back. If you are on the new project page, you will not see this. But if as soon as you create a project, you will get to this screen and you'll see this button here to sign in.
Yeah.
This circles back to what we talked about in the beginning, GPL versus not GPL.
Oh.
In the case of JUCE, JUCE itself is a tool that is GPL. So it is exactly in that space that I said, I would probably not go myself if I was to license something and build a product. Build a tool, because JUCE is a tool. It's not a product itself. You don't sell JUCE. You sell a plugin you made with JUCE. Anyway, back to the point. The idea is that if you paid for the pro version of JUCE, where it is exactly the same code, but it's licensed differently. So that's another nuance about licenses that is interesting to talk about. If you are the owner of the code, you can license it multiple times under different licenses. So you can have it under GPL as well as a proprietary license, because it's your code. You can do whatever you want with it. Other people wouldn't have the same freedom, but you have. And that's what the JUCE people did. They have the freedom to license their code under the GPL as well as a commercial license you pay for. And if you pay for that, you get an account and you can sign in here, and then you can view your plugin using your account. And then it will not have that splash screen when the plugin loads. Alternatively, and that's the tricky part that I did the wrong thing first. I just created an account and signed in. If you sign in with an account, but you don't pay for a license, it doesn't work. You will end up with the splash screen just the same. But if you are willing to say, okay, I don't want to pay for a license, but I will license my own work on my plugin under the GPL, then in that case, you can click on this button, which is an alternative to signing in. So you must be signed out. If you're signed in, sign out, click here on this little guy, sign out, then try to sign in again and enable GPL mode. And that's what you get, that little logo.
Oh,
and
nice.
You can, if you want, share this project, right? That's what the HISE people did. And I also did that for my Automixer. It's in the link in the description. So you can export this project file. And this notion of GPL or not is associated with this project. Because you can imagine that some developers would have some GPL plugins, some proprietary plugins. So this is information that is associated with the project. And when you save this project, you will save a .producer file that contains this information. So that's why when you opened the producer file for HISE, it was showing as GPL3. That's what's going on.
Nice. I had no idea about this. Now I forgot where is the project standalone. And let's go to builds, Visual Studio. And this is the folder that I just created. So I'm going to, now I need to remember how to create an interface, because this is what I did so far. I created in the master chain a sine wave generator. Can you hear with this?
Yes.
Cool. So this is, you have a MIDI processor. You can actually build in an arpeggiator or something. We're not going to do this right now. Again, modulation. It actually had just an attack and release, but I deleted it and replaced it with this AHDSR envelope. And also I added an effect, a saturator. Now what I want to do is create a simple interface with 5 knobs, attack, decay, sustain, release, and the saturator knob, and the background image, and then I'm going to save it and load it in Reaper. Sounds good?
Yeah.
Let's do it together. Please help me. Yeah. I like, oh my God, I'm doing the custom workspace thing right now. So we're going to discover all of this together. No. Oh, did I disable? Oh yeah, I have to enable the layout mode. So right now we're making what this is So cool. Oh, whatever. I'm just going to leave and replace it with something else. Now there you go. So we have this. I think this is where it is. I click the main interface, but it says that no interface is found. So I have to create the interface. Can you give me a minute? We're going to watch it together. HISE has created some very small tutorials, like 5 minutes each, and one is 1 minute each.
It is a really impressive project. The user interface is really impressive, and probably the documentation too, if they have videos explaining stuff and everything.
Yeah, and then the coolest thing about the documentation is that it's also on the GitHub, and it has Markdown, and it is regularly updated as well. So David is the guy who's making the most HISE tutorials, but there is also a tutorial on their homepage. It's just that it's based on an earlier version of HISE, and I don't know, maybe they have changed things. But let's watch it. There is it's very small. Let's create an instrument with HISE in 5 minutes.
Fotis, how about this? How about you watch this and figure out this thing about the user interface, and we get back to you. So how about we switch to Bo now and then get back to you?
Sure. No problem.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off my share screen.
Briefly, guys, I have solved problem with this, the sound. The problem was, so in optimization, I recompiled my project with all 3 optimization level, and everything sounds fine right now.
Which probably means that you are relying on some unspecified behavior of C++, and it happens to work when you turn off the optimization, but the problem is still there, right?
I think no. I think the problem is that basically I develop without optimization, because with optimization, debugging a project going weird, and it's become unable to debug project and find some bugs there.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
And when you turn on and off the optimizations, do you notice a difference in performance? Is it something that stands out, or is it negligible?
Yes, of course. Without optimization, everything running start consuming more than 100% of CPU. Where how to say that? Where that strange acting is coming from, and with optimization, it consuming around 20% of CPU, and like five times better.
So you do want to have optimizations on, but they are making your program not work. Tricky situation, right?
No, it's making my program work. It's making debugging how? Sorry for my English vocabulary.
Don't be sorry, it's fine.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Impossible. Unimpossible. I have translated that word. Yeah, so sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. So, Bo, do you want to talk about what you are working on?
Sure, absolutely. I've been having issues with iPlug. So I did some stuff in JSFX just to get going. And I tried an idea I had that's sort of based on base probability. And again, it's a smoothing algorithm. And the plan is to sort of to optimize it a bit more. I finished it like the day before yesterday, and I don't know if you can read the code if it makes sense. You're comparing 3 different low pass filters, and you put in them, and so you multiply the 2 first ones and then subtract by the third. Not subtract, but divide by the third. Sorry. Which should, in my head, it should render some interesting results. Let's see how that works out. But this is an experiment, and it was way too complicated to make too complicated for me to make an iPlug. So I've been working in JSFX.
All right, can you share your screen and then we can see some of the things you're talking about?
Sorry, I thought I was sharing my screen, so I've been moving stuff about here. Share screen, start sharing.
Yeah, that's perfect. We can see that.
Yeah.
And now people on YouTube can see that too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So this is JSFX. These are the 3 different low passes, so regular low passes, and this is the math for the low passes. And the bias is in order to avoid the divide by 0, I add 100 to the calculations, to the low passes and then subtract that from the final.
Interesting. What if your bias is very large, but what if the thing goes negative by that amount? Then it will add up to 0 again.
Pardon?
If you have a bias of 100, which is a large value for a sample, so it's probably never going to happen. But you could have a sample that is minus 100 plus the bias gets you back to 0, and you end up with a division by 0.
Yep, that could happen. I could have a bias of 10,000.
Yeah, one solution that I have seen in the past for this is you can naturally just check for 0. You can say EMA2 equals 0, and then you don't divide. But another thing you can do is you can add a very small value. Well, I guess it gets back to the problem of negative numbers would compensate for this small value that you add. Yeah, it doesn't really work in this case. I have seen this done in the past when your value is guaranteed to be non-negative. For instance, you computed RMS of something. Then RMS is guaranteed to be non-negative. And then in that case, you just add a very small value. And you're guaranteed to not have a 0. But yeah, I guess my advice here wouldn't apply because you may have negative values. The AMA2 variable can be negative, so it doesn't work. Anyway, that is a tangent that I sidetracked you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's good to hear different solutions to problems. And I chose a high value because when you get the closer you get to 1 or 2, or the lower values, there's going to be some mirroring issues. I guess I would name it as, but the further you get away from small numbers, the less the sort of errors you're going to get. And once the sample values start to exceed like +1 or -1, so that's the idea. I'm going to work some more on this and see what happens. This is a representation, the oscilloscope for, I think it's like 6K. Yeah, it's 6K. And the smoothing kind of works okay. I wanted to work it a bit nicer curves, not as sharp edges. But so this is the blue one is the original curve, that this is a smoother one. And as opposed to a regular...
and where did this idea come from? The idea of taking 3 different low passes with different weights, which will, I guess, end up being different cutoff frequencies, and just manipulating them in this way.
I'm really fascinated with base probability, which is a sort of scientific math thing. Is anyone familiar with that?
I know the keywords there.
Okay, so but the base probability, the idea is that a small change, so you have 3 values, and the idea of what I want to extend to this is like adding like 4, 5, 7, 9, adding more low passes and see what happens when you sort of do different math calculations on them. But the idea is of a small change in one of either the low passes would yield a big result, and the smaller the changes. So if low passes are all like 1 or the same value, nothing will happen, and a small change will, like I said, yield a bigger results than if it just had a small one low pass or a filter. Maybe it will behave like a regular, like 18 dB low pass. I have no idea, but this is a sort of idea that I want to try, just juggling different ways of. Like I said, I like smoothing. This was my goal is to get like the perfect anti-aliasing filter, but we'll see how that goes.
What would make a perfect anti-aliasing filter for you? What are you looking for in that filter?
More or less 0 phase phase issues, and like ringing at the cutoff frequency. And a way to manipulate it, I guess. But like I said, this is experiment. It might end up producing something else. But I don't like aliasing. So
I heard it's bad.
Work of the devil, the digital devil. But another thing that I've been working on is also smoothing. And that comes from, I remember way back reading about, I think it was Unsharp Mask. I was Googling this before the stream.
Oh, Unsharp Mask, that's also in Photoshop.
Yeah, I think it's a Photoshop algorithm, and it looks like, I should make some graphics for it. And it looks like this. So some of the samples are, or some of the values are being sort of, was it subtracted from, and some are added to. And the actual pixel or the actual sample that it's concerning is not included in the algorithm. So this would be like a sync window or Blackman-Harris window, but they're all positive values that get added up, and then was it evened out? Something math, English and math is not my strong suit here. But the difference between this is that you subtract and you add in the same algorithm. I think it's the Unsharp Mask. So what I made was this, and I've managed to make it compile, and it starts the app, but the plugin doesn't actually work in Reaper, so I can't check it if it's working. So if we could do that, possibly.
Yes, let's try to figure this out.
Because we did it once in a stream a couple of weeks ago.
Yes. That's why I made that face, because it was supposed to continue working. Can you show us the problem happening? Like, go through the steps again?
Yeah, the error message I get, but I don't think that's the actual. Hang on a bit. Let's compile. See what happens. So Yeah. So this is the error message.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
think I remember
concerning-
seeing some error message like this, and I remember that the plugin works nevertheless. And Tails' explanation for this made a lot of sense to me. There is a script that runs after your plugin has finished building, and it tries to put the plugin in the plugins folder for you so that you can just load the DAW and it will be there. But that part fails because your Visual Studio is not running as administrator, and you have the permission to write to the plugin directory, to the directory where plugins live. So what we did last time and worked, it was just to drag and drop the plugin into the right folder.
All right, because it produces a folder where I don't know if this is an actual plugin or not. So it produces a folder in the right place, and I set up the administrator permissions for the VST3 folder. But so we're supposed to compile a plugin and put it on the desktop and then move it to the right folder, or?
Yeah, I think that the way this is supposed to work is either you go through this process every time, you compile, you get the error message, then you go to File Explorer, drag and drop. That's one way of going about it. And we can try that right now just to see if the plugin ends up showing up in Reaper. But ideally, I guess you would try to figure out how to get this script to work so you don't get an error message and the plugin just goes to the right folder automatically. So for that, one thing you can try is to, maybe it's documented somewhere, maybe it is a problem that other people had in the past and you can try Googling for it. Maybe you can just try running Visual Studio as administrator. It doesn't sound like a good idea. It's probably not a good idea, but it's something you can try. And
here's the instructions for
there was some hack how to manage this problem, but I don't remember how to find it.
Tail is giving another idea here in the chat that may be a better solution overall. You could add yourself as a user who can write to the VST3 directory. So you no longer need to be an administrator to do it. And maybe the script will work then. But I guess to begin with, let's just drag and drop to see the plugin in Reaper and perhaps even hear what it sounds like.
Sure.
So do you know, first of all, go to the folder where the VST3 is right now. And then on a separate file explorer, go to the folder where your VSTs usually live. I guess it's under, I want to say, program files, and then go up.
So program found common files VST3. This is where it's supposed to be, 64-bit.
Oh, really? This is already the folder where you were supposed to have your VSTs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so you already did the drag and dropping.
No, it's set up to work that way, but the plugin isn't working. And remember the last one we made, the first one we made that just worked. And that one looks like this. It's a separate, an actual executable file. No, it's a file folder. Hang on a bit. What the frick? But they look quite different. So the Sharpen, which is this one that we're discussing now and produce now, it's a regular Windows folder, and the first one we produced looks like this.
Yes, they do have different icons and everything.
Is this a folder? Contents. Oh,
that's a very Mac
different.
OS thing to do, right? To have these bundles that are actually folders but behave like one thing. Anyway,
yeah.
Just to make sure that nothing is weird here, how about we delete the VST3 from everywhere and start over?
Sure. Debug, yeah. It's also in the 32-bit version. Should I delete that one as well? Windows. Hang on one. No, it's not, actually. There was... I just got to think of... At one point, I found a separate VST3 folder. Where did that go? That contained some plugins. Anyways, yeah, let's do it. Let's do your version, Leandro. Sorry.
Yeah, let's just compile again in Visual Studio and see what happens. Did it do anything?
No, I don't think so.
Can you go back to the folder and see if the VST3 is there?
Oh, yeah, it is. It's here.
It is there. Okay. And if you try to load Reaper now, what will happen when you say that it doesn't work? Do you mean Reaper doesn't find it? Do you mean it loads but it misbehaves?
Reaper can't find it. So it would be sharp something. Or
perhaps let's refresh the plugin list.
No sharp. New. New can do.
Yeah, very weird. Maybe there is some other error before we even get to build a successful VST3.
Yeah. So this I thought there was going to be a short troubleshooting, but this might take some time, and I should do it on my own time.
No, M9 has another idea we can try. Just put it in a different VST folder. Sometimes VST3 doesn't work.
Huh?
So do you have, under common files, do you have other...
Nope.
It's just VST3. Interesting. And if you try to build a VST2, which I know is an option there on Visual Studio as well. Did you try that before? Does it work?
So should I just open this? This is... Should compile... Yeah, let's see. Include flight FX. No error message.
That's probably because you haven't installed the VST2 SDK. That's probably what that is about.
Yeah.
It was just wishful thinking, really. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could try just taking a step back, going back to the effect that we were able to compile in the previous meeting, and we saw it loading in Reaper and everything. And then retrace your steps and see what goes wrong. Because I don't have many other ideas at this point.
Me neither.
It can call some bat file. Maybe there is no such file. Like create bundle.bat.
Sorry?
The last line. See user they I don't see anymore. The Microsoft Studio can't make a call to the one of the files. Maybe there is no such file in your folder structure.
Yeah, I think that this line here is what Cwits is talking about, right?
Yeah. Check the last line. Create bundle.bat.
Oh.
Maybe there is no such file.
Yeah, where do I find that one?
There is long path.
Sharpen projects.
VSC user Daner dev plug example sharpener projects something scripts.
It's
Somewhere
super
there.
funny that it goes deep into a hierarchy, then it goes up. That's what the two dots mean. Go up one directory, so it goes up and then goes back in.
But also maybe there is a problem with another file which description is in the first line, like post-built win.bat. Maybe there is problem. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely issues with them, but where do I sort of install them? How do I fix it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and M9 is saying another thing that we could do, because it really seems like there are two problems here. The first is it seems like the VSC3 is just not built correctly. And then if it is built correctly, we learned last time that it will try to move it to a different folder and fail in the process and blah, blah, blah. And I thought that that second issue was the thing that was happening. Now it appears that it is not. But anyway, I guess for issue 1, which is to build a valid VSC3 in the first place, I recommend that you do what we talked about. Go back to the previous stage that worked. So go back to the project you had when we had the last meeting, and that worked. Then retrace your steps, like change the files one by one and see where it breaks. But once you get...
What we did last meeting was I ran the app and just used a microphone. I didn't boot it in Reaper.
Oh, really? I thought that we had a VSC3 loaded in Reaper.
We did. When I first installed the iPlug, we just produced a plugin, which is the one, which is that one, iPlug Effect.
Mm-hmm.
So we just loaded up a project in one of the example projects in iPlug, made this plugin, and it loaded in Reaper fine, so it worked just fine. And then, oh yeah, that's when I updated to, I updated the Visual Studio, and everything just broke. So I had to, maybe that's the thing.
Maybe it is.
So I had to uninstall. I was working on that for days. So I had like Visual Studio 2021, and I had to uninstall it and reinstall iPlug and shit. Oh man, is that the thing?
It may be, and it may be something as simple as you have compiled the project in a previous version of Visual Studio, then you update it, and now some of the files that were produced in the build are no longer valid, so you would just have to clean up the build directories and retry. Maybe. But
now this error message makes sense.
Maybe, yeah. It would try to find a path that no longer exists because it was generated by a previous version of Visual Studio. So I guess the debug strategy for problem number 1 is go back to a good known stage where everything compiles and runs in Reaper, and then retrace your steps, because you didn't change much about the code, and it seems like the code you wrote is correct. There are no error messages complaining about the syntax of anything. So go back to a good known stage and try to recreate your steps to figure out issue number 1. And as for issue number 2, that is copying the product, the VST3, into the right directory, and some of that failing, there are plenty of good ideas here on the chat. You can just don't copy the VST3 and point Reaper at the folder that is generated by Visual Studio in the build process. Or you can try what Tail is mentioning and just give yourself write access to the VST3 directory. Or you can always drag and drop, which is annoying, but it's doable. We did it last time. So I guess that is not super satisfactory because it doesn't solve the issue, but at least you have a strategy to try to follow and see what comes of it.
I'm pretty sure, like Taylor suggested, I'm pretty sure it has the right permissions. So users, desktop, full control, because that's what it said on the iPlug page.
Oh.
Unless there's something else, Tail. creator owner system. I'm finally two front war here. I'm trying to figure out how iPlug works. Plus, I'm struggling with the Windows system because that's completely new to me.
Yeah, what Tail is suggesting here, coming back to issue number 1, is a way of testing my theory of some build files that were generated by a previous version of Visual Studio messing with this new version of Visual Studio. And that is just to clean the directory. So he's teaching us how to do that. So the way you do it is you go to Visual Studio, and then in the menu you go to Build, and then Clean. That is supposed to get rid of files that were generated by previous versions. It may not be perfect, but it may help.
Is it this one?
Yeah.
Clean sharpen. Whew. Can it be that simple?
We will see right now.
Yeah, sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, so if you cleaned, and that is supposed to have deleted the files that were generated by previous builds. So now you're building as if it is the first time, supposedly. So try to build, and let's see what happens.
Tail, if this works, you are a god. Same error.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tail. You're
Sorry.
not that.
you're a demigod.
And the error message, this create bundle line, kind of makes sense in the sense that we saw the directories in the file explorer, and the directory was there, the name was right, but it didn't show the right icon. So I guess that's what the bundle is all about. The bundle is to turn a regular directory into this special thing that is seen by the operating system in a different way.
All right. Makes sense. Anyways, this seems like a lot of troubleshooting, and I can ask at the iPlug forum if anyone can help me with this. But I have another, I wouldn't say issue, but I need help with something. And I think Leandro would be perfect for this.
Shoot.
So what I want to do, last time I showed you the iPlug designer, and you mentioned that you need to create a separate folder for to include that in a project. How do I go about that?
Hang on. Say that again. I'm not sure I understand what we are going for here.
So, yeah, the iPlug designer is great. It produces code. What I'm looking to do is include this code in my project.
Sure.
How do I do that? The proper way.
I don't know plugin designer, so I don't know the answer to that, but it seems to me as though it's just producing code that would replace what you currently have between, like, for instance, lines 15 and 22 in this code, because that's the block of code that right now is doing the rendering of the user interface.
Yeah.
And can you show us again the code that is produced by the plugin designer?
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's not just a function. It is more like defining data structures and everything.
But I'm not sure, but is it possible to define some structures in a Lambda?
Perhaps. I guess it is just declaring variables and saying that they are constant and giving them a type and a name and then initializing them with a bunch of things. So yeah, okay, yeah, let's just try this. I don't think it's going to work. It's already not working. But whatever, right? You could just replace, I guess you would replace lines 16 to 21 with the code that was given to you by the iPlug designer.
Okay.
But there is a red flag And that is the style of code we see in line 16 to 21 is very different from the style of code that we saw generated by iPlug Designer. This is creating sort of objects and that's not the style used. Oh, there you go. Look at that last block. That is familiar. That is the kind of code that I was expecting to see.
Yeah, P graphics.
Okay, so there you have it. You don't replace line 16 to 21. You replace the whole thing. The whole M layout funk. You replace the whole thing with this.
Okay. So this bit gets copied.
Yeah, no, you copy the whole block. Just click on copy code here in iPlug Designer.
Yep.
And then go back to Visual Studio, and I can direct you at which lines you should change. So I guess it is between lines. I want to say 15 to 22. Yeah, you just remove lines 15 to 22 and then paste.
Probably structured definitions should go to the H file, but it's like view meter and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that?
I said probably. Because basically you're defining new structures in the H file.
Well, but you're not defining the data structure, you're instantiating one of these data structures.
Oh, I see.
It is the syntax is a bit weird to me, but what is happening is there is this data structure, probably comes with iPlug because the name starts with I, called IV style, and there are others below. But then what you're saying is const, because it's not going to change. IV style is the name of the data structure, comes with iPlug. Default style is the name of a variable. And then open brace is an initializer for the fields you need to provide for the data structure to exist. So this is a kind of wacky variable definition with an initializer. But
I agree, yes.
And I think that this is the kind of thing that would live right next to everything else, but I don't know.
But if this code, these structures have to be used in the other code parts, then probably you have to write them down like a global variables.
Perhaps, yeah. But I think that what we have there stands a chance of working once we figure out all the build issues. And I want to read M9's comments. Did I say hi to you? Hi, M9. It's great to have you here.
I see there is a couple errors.
Yeah, what they say here on the chat is you should Google for the error messages because sometimes people have run into the error messages before, but we know that the iPlug community is not huge, so the chances are not that great, but it is worth a try. And M9 is asking if the batch file, the create bundle file, is creating the error. Maybe it is creating the error, but it seems to me like it's just not there. It seems like there is this script that is part of iPlug that was supposed to be there, it's in the wrong place, or something else entirely. I don't know. And they are also saying that structs can be defined anywhere, and I guess we could even perhaps define the structure itself. In this case, we are just using a data structure that comes with iPlug, but if we wanted, we could define a data structure anywhere, even in the middle of a lambda or something. But it is not necessarily good form. It would be better to have a header file because it can be reused, because it is the natural thing that people would do. So that's where they expect to see data structure definitions.
I just have tried to define structure inside of the function on online compiler, and it works. Yeah,
but I think that the scope of that definition will be just the scope of your current function, right?
Yes, of course, but maybe this is advantage.
Yeah, because then you may want to
Maybe.
have like that data structure accessible only by that body of that function. So
There is some possibilities.
Yeah.
all right.
So where are we?
Yeah, so I think that
compile this.
yeah, well, you can try to compile maybe the standalone version of this.
Probably it should work.
Undeclared.
Yeah, that K wedge is not on the screen right now. Can you go to where the error occurs?
129, 131, 137.
Oh yeah, those variables, those came with the code we copy and pasted.
Because kgain existed before, and kdry probably.
Yeah, go to the
no.
header file real quick, the sharpen.h file. Kgain is there, and you have to add kwedge and kdry.
Fotis effing up again. Oh no. I hate this keyboard. I can't do an equal sign. And it happens every time. Whenever I started coding, and the keyboard just breaks.
A different keyboard?
Can you Control-C, Control-V? Because you have an
Yeah.
equal sign on the screen.
Yeah. It's so annoying. Crappy HP.
And I guess you changed
Sorry.
that 0 into a 1, right?
I did check this. I think you're supposed to. It's maybe not to draw.
And probably knum presets should also. No, knum. Oh, okay, nothing. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's different things.
But there is also a syntax error, and that's no good.
Missing before, but it's a curly bracket, isn't it?
Because you have to close that lambda. Not there. A little bit higher on the previous braces.
Yeah, line 134. No, I think that what you need there is semicolon.
Oh yeah, that made it worse.
Yeah, I think you need a semicolon there.
Let's see if I can... No, semicolon. Oh,
You have one in line 121 you can copy and paste.
Looks like that keyboard is very bad.
Pardon?
Looks like that keyboard is very bad.
Oh yeah, it's so annoying, and it's always at the worst times. It has this Murphy's law intuition. Hang on, wasn't it compiling?
Yeah, here's the create bundle problem again.
Yeah, but it should. Why isn't it compiling?
But
the app?
I have good news for you. This thing compiled.
Yeah.
It didn't create
Yeah,
the bundle,
that's
but
good.
that's a later step in the process. It compiled, which means that there are no syntax errors, all the variables exist, all the data structures exist. Once you figure out the build issue, this stands a chance of working. So that is how you use iPlug Designer.
Cool. My original thought, or sort of my initial hunch, was that this was going to be all the code that I copied from my iPlug Designer was going to go in a separate file, like a .h something .i graphics. iGraphic.cpp something? No?
No, it seems like it's the kind of code that would live there. We even saw some code that looked like the code that we copy and pasted, in the sense that it had that same shape of creating a lambda and then using the graphics engine to draw some stuff. So I think that we are using it the proper way.
Okay.
Bo, can we try one thing briefly?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
Right click on the sharpener up, like on the Solution Explorer, and press Set as Startup Project. There is button in the middle.
Set as Startup Project.
And try to build now. Maybe it will.
Oh yeah, you are right. It was trying to create a bundle, which means it was doing a VST3, not the standalone.
But
okay, retry.
Yeah.
And now it's missing a font.
That's
When you were using iPlug Designer, did you choose fonts?
No, it was the ones in the iPlug Designer, and they might not be in the project though. So
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
But looks like project running, because debugging is running.
Where is it though?
Probably the debugger stopped before any window had a chance of being created, so we don't see it on the task manager.
Where's the font audio?
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but I am exporting a plugin now, so fingers crossed.
We send you our wishes and prayers. And Tail has a good point. Besides just declaring kdry and kwet, we should also initialize kdry and kwet, which is something that we have done in the previous session when we were coding together. And it is in the CPP file. It is way up top, right in the beginning of the CPP file. And, or was it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The
same way you initialize kgain in line 8, you would want to initialize kwet and kdry. But the truth is that what Tail is pointing out is very much correct, but it is a runtime issue, and we are not even able to compile the thing. So Tail is way ahead of us here.
Thank you, Tail.
Yeah, so I guess, Bo, the homework you have is kind of unpleasant, because what you have to do is retrace steps and, I guess, reboot your computer so your keyboard springs back into life. But just retrace steps and try to find where things go wrong. Maybe it is Visual Studio being updated. Maybe it is something else. But I'm sure if you put enough sweat and tears, you'll be able to find out what's happening. And I'm looking forward to learning what it is.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, that's my end part of the stream. So thanks for all the help, Tail, Leandro, Cwits.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing your progress.
And
yeah. So
okay, so I can go back to me for a brief moment.
Yeah,
but
let's
the
do
thing
it.
is that I am still building this thing. So share computer sound. Sorry. And now you can probably see my Skype. Oh, just when I loaded it, it's compiling a file. You can see it is a bit processor intensive. It's writing to disk and CPU. And it's including all the HISE modules one by one. So now we wait. with our fingers crossed, and I'm not going to show you the GUI. It's a surprise. But what I did, I'm going to retrace my own steps. First of all, I figured out how to create an ADSR envelope and 4 sliders for knobs. Also a 5th knob for a saturation, and a sine wave generator, and an image file. The thing is that HISE can be quite cumbersome when saving projects. It's saving them as presets. I don't know why. It has a load project option, but it doesn't have a save project option. It has a save preset option. It's maddening, but from what we can see, it's going well here. But I don't want to keep you waiting. So do you want to discuss something else while this is building, or do you want me to show you something? By the way, yeah, there it is. I have an announcement to make. This is the first time I'm making this public, but I'm building my first samples service. I created a Ko-fi page about it, and soon, once I finish my first sample pack, I'm going to upload it, and you can buy it for $5 or more. And my sample library project is going to be called. Hold on, I'm gonna show you my logo so it's official. Music art. And here is my logo. It's called Crispy Samples. This is transparent PNG. This is.
Looks cool.
Thanks.
Are you making them by yourself?
The samples, yes. The sample library is going to be called Voice of the Glitch, and it's going to be like 250 samples broken into BPMs, and it's going to be samples of my voice, and I have processed them with various plugins such as Glitch Machines or the JSFX Avocado Glitch, which is an amazing free. Yeah, that's what it's called, the avocado glitch. And I recorded my voice saying various things, and then I chopped them up and I glitched them. And it's almost done. Now I have to do some organization and some mastering, and they're good to go. And if you want, I can then post a link on our Discord.
Yeah,
nice.
Cool.
Thanks.
Great work.
Oh, this SNEX is probably the one that's going to take the most. Oh, no, it's small, actually. Oh.
I find it very weird that it seems like the compiler is taking a lot of time on each file. That's usually not how things go. Usually it's too many files. So they are probably huge CPP files. That's kind of weird.
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's my first export ever.
Maybe it's compiling in one thread.
Oh, yeah. I think that's the reason. Maybe there is an option to create a multi-threaded compilation. I don't know. But while it's loading, I'm going to show you what I did with the tutorial. Maybe that's a bad idea because I'm putting extra stress on my CPU. Oh, wait, it's almost over. Oh, yeah, there are 3 more modules, and then it should be good to go. Yeah, and remember what's gonna happen if it works. We all know what's gonna happen. So the thing is that this guy, David Healy, this is my homework for the next meeting. I'm going to watch some more of David Healy's tutorials because now all I did was breeze through them. And he has created this tutorial called building a synth with no scripting necessary.
You're trying to run away from writing code, aren't you?
Yeah. but I already did write some code earlier. There is a scripting window, and you are writing callbacks, I don't know. I had to write a code that generates an interface based on my own dimensions. But yeah, I actually do understand how to use the scripting processor, so I guess I am not going to run away from code this time, but I am going to copy paste some functions and put them in the script processor. Oh yeah, and
copy and pasting is fine. Copy and pasting is how the pros do it.
Yeah, we're just stealing. The one thing that was annoying about the HISE is that the script processor is not directly loaded into the project, but you have to create it yourself inside the module that's called MIDI processor, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And because I couldn't find it, and I had to look in 4 different tutorials in order to figure it out. But other than that, it was smooth sailing. So you can actually create an envelope that you can draw, and you can set the parameters. Oh, now it's loading the JUCE modules, the standard ones. And also I have one more question. I guess that's my homework for another time. But I have found some modules on GitHub. I'm going to show this.
Rick, can you show one more time where you're drawing envelope?
Oh yeah, sorry. The envelope is like an item that you drop on the interface. Because if you right-click on the interface designer, it gives you a bunch of options, and it gives you like a slider option or an image option or a vector option. Hopefully David shows it here. Sorry,
Okay, can you share this YouTube video?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to post it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Whoop. And yeah, so this is how he does it. The resolution is down. By the way, did I tell you that we finally installed the optical fibers in my place? So my internet is slightly better now. So here it is. You create a floating tile, and then you put this script in here. And it's because you have to declare the processor ID, and then it generates this vector that you can then tweak with your knobs and even clicking and dragging on the button itself. So yeah, there is, and also you can set the color. Oh, come on. Anyway, what I wanted to show you was in the awesome JUCE. HISE, from what I understand, has its own scripting language or framework or whatever, but it's built on top of JUCE, right? And it's using its own modules in conjunction with the JUCE default modules. But what I want to figure out is whether I can take some of these collections from other users, like these lemons or the KV modules, and if I can implement them in HISE somehow, because some people have created some interesting effects or other things, like these are old ones, but this gene, where is it? So these are graphical modules, but still they could play nice in HISE. So I want to figure out if I can tell HISE to load the modules, like for example, if I can place them in here and then tell HISE to load them. It could be possible, right?
It depends. It's complicated.
Yeah. It's complicated, yeah. That's the thing I didn't want to hear.
Yeah, I guess you would need to go to the module and see how it is intended to be used.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess each library, each tool will have its own way of being incorporated into the big project you are working on. So you would first have to look into the specific module you're interested in incorporating and see how it is supposed to be used. And as far as the HISE part, it is a JUCE project. So you can pretend that you have a regular JUCE project and you would like to use the library with. Of course, there will be things that are specific to HISE, and then the compatibility may fall down there, but for the most part, it is just a JUCE project. So I guess you would go about it by putting the module in your modules folder in your JUCE installation, and then, or alternatively, pointing producer at a different folder if you prefer to do that, and then go to the project in producer, find the place where you have your modules, and add a new one, and it will regenerate the Visual Studio project, and then you hope for the best. So
that means that I have to rebuild HISE in a different folder, but with the extra modules loaded inside it, and hope for the best.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
So
in general, I think that most modules will work by just dropping them in the right folder and recreating the project with Producer. But I'm sure there will be special requirements depending on the module.
I see. By the way, did you know that Cabbage, the thing that I showed in the previous live stream, that's using C sound, it's I don't know if the whole thing itself, let's see. Cabbage is right here. So Cabbage is actually built inside JUCE, I think. There is a JUCE folder inside here.
Oh.
But no, sorry. In the latest, one thing that I really like about GitHub is this insights thing right here. So you go to network, and then you can see all the builds and the forks. Now even this is, this is going too slow because it has tons of pull requests that haven't been applied yet. But I'm using the arrow keys. Sorry about the epilepsy-inducing dots. Oh my god. So yeah, this is the development branch, but this guy roams some, this created his own branch. And as you can see here, he's implementing Faust inside the HISE. And that should be very interesting because I'm not very familiar with Faust, but from what I saw, you can create some very interesting and creative synthesizers with it. So I guess it will be just another matter of copying and pasting Faust projects inside HISE. But yeah, then I can just tweak a few numbers. Oh, compiling, generating code. That's good, right?
It seems good.
Meanwhile, let's load Reaper. And let's save some CPU usage. One other interesting function is that HISE can still export to VST3 in 32-bit and also hybrid. Oh no, not hybrid. And I think it is 32 and 64 in the same folder. But yeah, and here in the beginning, it also saves some Xcode and Linux make files. And I'm wondering if there is actually a method to generate Mac or Linux plugins with HISE, because I could do it in Maze. I don't know how the Maze people did it, but Maze was also based. Sorry, Maze was also based in JUCE, and maybe they did hide inside the exe file some dependencies that allow you to export Mac and Linux plugins, and I did it it worked.
Are you
So-
saying that you can cross-compile, or that in this case the message we saw is probably just producer or JUCE is generating the project files for Xcode, the project file for Visual Studio, and the project file for make files in Linux. But that is just
No.
the project file. It is just a way for you to open Xcode and have a project going. It does not mean that you are building the plugin itself.
Yeah, in Maze I could cross-compile. I don't know how they did it.
That is very interesting.
But unfortunately, Maze is closed source, so we have no idea how they do it. And even if I ask them, they're going to take 4 months to reply. I'm not joking. That's their standard response time. And it's not just to me, to everybody who is a customer of Maze. So
I take a lot
see if-
longer to answer my emails.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's taking 1.5 gigabytes of RAM just to compile.
Isn't it
the video.
against the user agreement of Apple to produce binaries if you're not in macOS? I think it is against the user agreement.
I don't know, but I compiled some Mac plugins and I sent them to my friend Bill, who we made the drum plugin together, and he's using Mac, and he had no problem loading the VST3 in his Reaper in Mac. So
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe Maze has come to an agreement with Apple,
No idea.
and that's
but
why
interesting to know.
That's why they keep it closed source, I guess. Oh God, please finish.
Okay, so as a last chance of seeing this actually working
Yes.
today, I guess I can switch to my brief update for this meeting.
Sure.
And then if we...
I don't want to drag you guys any longer.
Yeah,
If it takes too long,
if the thing
I can
finishes
show it and
while
then-
I'm speaking, then we can look at it. Otherwise, we'll create
Yeah.
suspense for next meeting. My
Sure,
update is
sure.
really short because I didn't do a lot. I am working on the Automixer and I am working on some electronic stuff, but mostly on the streams. So you all pretty much know what I'm up to. In terms of the Automixer, the progress I have made is super exciting, but I think it's probably going to be Reaper specific. I don't think I will be able to translate this to C++ because I worked on some Automixer for video stuff. As a brief summary of what I worked on, I have 2 flavors of Automixer for video, and that one of which is for post-production. So you load your files in Reaper, your video files in Reaper, and the video processor will be driven by the audio Automixer, so you can switch to different cameras depending on who is speaking, which is very nice. It's something that the original Automixer also did. My version of the Automixer did that as well. But the second version of Automixer for video is brand new and it's super exciting. I am building this monstrosity that is an audio effect. The Automixer drives a Reaper script that drives a command line program that talks to OBS. And this allows you to broadcast live with an Automixer, not only for audio, but also for switching scenes. So this thing that I sometimes do when we are streaming, where I switch to my camera, for instance, and then I switch back to this, is something that I'm doing manually, but it could be driven by the Automixer. So we could be switching to the right person, the person who is speaking automatically, which is super exciting. So that's what I'm up to on the Automixer front. On the electronics things, I am playing around with some basic circuits, so things like the Atari Punk Console, and I built one of those. It's kind of fun. Yesterday I had a stream in which, from a technical standpoint, everything went wrong, but we were able to solder a little kit that is an analog VU meter. I guess that's why I'm asking Cwits if he's willing to do any analog stuff, because I am learning about that and it's quite fun. And so learning about these basic circuits, like what an F555 timer does, and I am still working on an idea that I talked about way back of using my audio interface as an oscilloscope by just lowering the levels of the signal and making sure that it is never going over. So clipping, so lowering the voltage, clipping the voltage, and buffering with an op-amp. So I'm still considering doing that. I'm also considering just going ahead and buying an oscilloscope, but I think it would be educational to try to build one myself out of a sound card.
Yeah, it would be more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my quick update. And in terms of like what I'm going to do next, well, I am going to continue working on the Automixer stuff. And in terms of electronics, I'll probably dive into that circuit of that little kit we built on the stream yesterday and actually analyze it and see how it works. Because it's relatively simple and it is quite fun. Perhaps we could even try to simulate it in SPICE, pretend that we are... pretend that we don't know how it works and try to probe it. Yeah, that kind of thing. And
by the way, sorry. Yes.
No, yeah, I think I finished my update. It's quite brief because I didn't work on anything beyond what you all saw on my streams.
If you end up building your own oscilloscope, there is an experiment that I would like you to make based on some other guy, Monty, who is the creator of ZIF. I think Christopher Monty Montgomery. I'm going to share the link in the chat. So Monty has created an article that's no longer online. You can find it on archive.org, but I can't load it right now. And he was arguing about the difference between bit depths and sample rates. And then he created this video, which I posted. And he uses an oscilloscope to demonstrate the difference between audio to digital and digital to analog signals. So if you watch this video and you see what he's doing, it could be a nice exercise for you to test the oscilloscope that you yourself will build.
Yeah, and I know that video.
Yeah.
It is awesome. It is really great. Okay. And people who are like on the YouTube chat right now, I'm going to, as I always, write notes of the meeting available on GitHub in the repository in the link in the description below, because Fotis didn't send this on the YouTube chat. He sent it on the Skype chat because YouTube doesn't like when people send links. Anyway, yeah, that video is great. And yeah, it will be great to actually see stuff like he does in that video. And M9 is talking about the DSO, the digital storage oscilloscope 138, which is this little oscilloscope that is sold on Amazon. It costs very little and it is a DIY kit, and it sort of works well enough for audio applications. If you are trying to see something like a microcontroller, it's probably not good enough. But as long as you are in lower sample rates and you don't want any kind of fancy triggering, it is good enough. Many people use it for building synthesizers and that sort of thing. So yeah, it is something that I consider buying. Over here in Portugal, it would be like double that price, but it's still very affordable. I'm also considering just buying, I have many ideas. I could, and I think I will do this sound card oscilloscope thing, because I think it will be educational and fun. Then there is the DSO 138, and then there is the Hentec 6022, which is this box. It has no display or anything. You're supposed to connect it via USB to your computer, and then the readings will be done in the computer. And there is this open source software called Open Hentec that is an alternative to the software that comes with the thing, and it's supposed to be much better. So that's another idea. And some people say that you can buy analog old oscilloscopes, used ones, of course, and they tend to not be too expensive. Over here, they are a bit on the expensive side, so I don't think it's worth it, because if you're buying one of those for 150 euros, you might as well just save another 100 and buy a brand new, very passable, very working digital oscilloscope. But anyway, yeah, that's what I'm up to.
Okay, sorry guys, but it's still compiling, so I guess I'll save it for the another time, for the next live stream. But if you don't want to keep, for those of you who are watching and you don't want to end this on a cliffhanger, I am going to record the video and post it on our Discord so you can watch it later.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, so we have been going on here for almost 2.5 hours. So tomorrow I will not be streaming, but on Friday I might. Maybe with Arya. Last week I promised we would stream together, but he wasn't available. Maybe this week he will be available. I don't know. If he's not available, I may stream here on my channel. Probably getting back to the Automixer. We'll see. Just I will be around. Not tomorrow.
Did you ever
though,
make?
but
Did
I will
you
be
make
around.
the second video with that mastering guy?
Yeah,
Where you
there.
master your song?
Yeah, that's
Did
the
you do
plan. We were
Oh.
supposed to do it last week, but then Arya couldn't make it. So maybe we will. Arya is here on the chat now saying I was just emailing. So Friday works. So I will see you all on Friday over at
awesome.
IDGQD
Yeah.
Sound, Arya's channel. And
Excellent.
M9 is saying that the hand tech is good enough. It probably is. It's 2 channel. It is $80. It's not too much. I don't know. I'll see. I'll see what I'll do in terms of oscilloscopes. But it is fun to make your own with a sound card kind of thing. I think it will be educational. Anyway, so let's wrap this up. I see you again in 2 weeks for another meeting of the C++ digital signal processing, JUCE, and various other topics study group. Thank you, Fotis and Bo and Cwits for joining the meeting.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It is
Thank you
always a
everyone
lot
in
of
the
fun.
chat who's helping out.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Theo, M9, Beats, and Mage, and yeah, everyone. You know who you are. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday for some mastering stuff. It would be fun.
Yes.
All right, bye.
Bye,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the stream. You know how great it has been. Or maybe it sucked, and I am glad that you stuck with me. And soon we'll all be back together for some more coding or talking or chilling. The next time I'll be streaming.